You're watching The Sovereign Life with Teresa Stewart on Channel 80 Tip.
Welcome back to this episode of The Sovereign Life. If you're just joining us, we talked about tip number one is making sure that you are prepared to be an adult. Now, as a college student, this is the first time you are getting out the gates, out of your homestead. So you are going to be a full-on adult, and adulting is hard, in case they didn't tell you. And so make sure that you are prepared to be that adult. Now, it's going to be a rocky road, just like life is in general, and that's okay. But if you're prepared to be the adult that you are going to be, then you'll have a great time and you'll be an amazing college student. Now I want to switch to the second thing that you need to be focused on when you're managing your finances as a college student, and that is to get organized. Now, I mentioned the budget earlier. Sure, it's not everyone's favorite topic to discuss, but even if your parents are financially supporting you or if you have a scholarship, you should actually create a budget for those things that you're getting money for. So even if your room and board is paid for, even if your tuition is paid for through your scholarship, create a budget based on all of those things so that you can actually see how much it's costing you to be in school, and then see what you have left over to take care of yourself. Now, every time you do a budget, it probably is gonna look different because you might find a template online that says you should put all of your expenses together here, all of your income should be over here, and maybe you should have fixed expenses and variable expenses. Maybe you should have survival expenses. Maybe there's some fun expenses you want to have. Everyone has a different category for their budget. Now, what I can say for me personally, I have found that nothing that someone else created for me worked. I had to create my own budget myself. I had to figure out what visually makes sense for me and how do I process managing my money. Unfortunately, I can't necessarily say what's going to work for you, but what I can say is that being someone who is totally great at math or being someone who is super organized is not the prerequisite to being great at money management. It's okay to not necessarily know all of the ins and outs of creating a budget. It's okay to feel a little bit overwhelmed the first time, because let me tell you, creating your budget the first time is an overwhelming task. You don't know all of the different expenses you are probably gonna come across in the next month, the next 3 months, the next year, and that's okay. You just want to get started, because if you don't actually start to organize your money and start to figure out what it is that you're going to spend and where you're going to spend it, that's where the overwhelm comes. Once you have a plan, which is what I like to call my budget, it's a personalized money plan. I don't use the term budget too much, but I definitely wanted to give you that reference that you know where we're going with this particular conversation. Having a personalized money plan is great because personal finance is very personal. What works for me as a college student may not work for my best friend in college. It may not even work for someone that's at the exact same part of their life cycle as I am, and that's okay. Being organized and knowing exactly where my money is going is the most important part of the budget. Now let's talk about some of the things you should have in your budget. We kind of talked about them at a high level before, but now let's break it down a little bit. So let's talk about the income. Now, your scholarship fund is an income. Sure, it's not coming directly to you, but it is an income that is taking over your room and board. It's probably paying for your tuition itself. It's probably also paying for your books in some cases. And so you need to record that as income. You may be getting some funds from your parents. Maybe your mom and your dad send you $500 a month. Maybe they send you $200 a month. Maybe they send you $1,000. If they send you $1,000, you are living the life. You should be grateful. Now, that is a form of income for you. Now, if you were like me and you decided to get your own job, that is quite obviously an income that you should have on your budget. Now, whether you put that on the top, on the side, on the bottom, totally up to you. Do not get caught up on where you put it. Just make sure you have it on your budget. Now, let's talk about some of your expenses. As we mentioned, room and board, probably the highest one on your list, or maybe your tuition is high, because I feel like tuition's high because these days, tuition is skyrocketing, and I am praying for all of you that are now college students because I am glad that I am no longer having to pay that. It is definitely a high bill to pay, but it is an expense that you want to make sure that you write down on your budget. Now, your books, those tend to be variable expenses. They can fluctuate, and it's a great thing that they now have the option for you to rent your book. So you don't necessarily have to buy your textbook in my day, which is not that long ago, and it's okay. I know I look great for my age. You definitely have to find ways to save money where you can, and renting your book is absolutely the best way for you to do that, because 9 times out of 10, you're not going to keep that textbook in your life forever, and the content of that textbook is going to change. I was in college for 4 years, and one of my economic books went through at least 3 editions in the time that I was in school. The content didn't really change, but the editions of the book changed, and guess what? So did the price. For whatever reason, when it becomes a new edition, it's now more expensive. It's the same person that wrote the book as last time, but he added a few more sentences, and now we gotta pay for that extra ink. So make sure when you can, you look for ways to save money. Don't always look to buy the new textbook. See if someone in your that took the class previously is trying to sell their book. They'll sell it to you at a different rate. You need to find ways to save money as a college student because your income is gonna be somewhat restricted. You don't have the experience that other people have the first time they're getting their job out of college. So you need to be able to find ways to make sure that the money that you're actually bringing in, you don't just blow it on a new pair of shoes or a new pair of clothing. You want to make sure everything that you're spending your money on is things that are worthwhile for you. Now let's talk about some other expenses that you might have as a college student. Technology is the way of the world, so you're probably going to need to have a laptop. You're probably going to have a Microsoft subscription. They do not allow you to purchase that outright anymore. You got to pay monthly. I'm currently paying annually, and that's actually a pro tip. When you are looking to set up some subscriptions, try to see if you can pay for it on an annual basis because you tend to get money off on the monthly amount that you would spend when you buy it outright for the year. So definitely do that. I think right now I'm paying like $70 for Microsoft for the year, and that works out for me in a great way because I don't have to pay $12.99 a month. I'm saving a couple of dollars a month, which in the long run will help you out because you need Microsoft to do pretty much everything in college. You gotta write your essays on Microsoft Word. You probably gotta do an Excel spreadsheet for one of your math classes. And even though PowerPoint presentation isn't the gem anymore, it's what a lot of professors are still comfortable with using. So hey, you need that as well on your computer. Now, some other things that you probably might have to pay for as a college student is your cell phone bill because yes, you still need to be connected. Your parents need to be able to WhatsApp you and tell you, have a great day. They want to send you that good morning message. Sure, you're probably not going to respond back, and that's okay. But as long as your mom sees that blue tick, she knows you got the message and she knows you're going to have a great day. So you definitely want to have a cell phone bill that you can take care of. And you also might have, some other things that you want to do. You maybe want to go to the movies. You maybe want to go hang out with your friends to go to the go-kart racetrack. Maybe you want to go bowling. Maybe you want to just have a weekend, a staycation wherever you're from. Just make sure whatever you plan on spending your money on that you allocate for it. Now, you don't necessarily have to know everything that you want to pay for it in that particular month right then and there, but have a plan for what you want to spend that money on. Do start to think in advance some of the things that you may have to spend your money on and what you're going to have to fit into your budget. Now, being prepared to be an adult is the very first step for you to manage your money as a college student. And the next thing you want to do is get organized. So after this commercial break, we're going to go into the third thing that you need to do to manage your money as a college student. So make sure you do not go anywhere because I'm going to wrap it all up for you and it's all going to make even more sense.
We'll be right back after these messages.